The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the planet Earth when the first fleet of the Rakar arrived. The peaceful hum of everyday life, once the reassuring rhythm of humanity's existence, was abruptly silenced. The massive, dark warships of the Rakayar cut through the fabric of space with terrifying precision, their engines glowing ominously as they breached the outer edge of Earth's solar system. For centuries, humanity had looked up at the stars with wonder, hopeful for peace, never expecting that the quiet beauty of space would one day be shattered by such a force. The Galactic Council, a union of countless species from across the galaxy, had been watching the arrival from their distant council chambers, paralyzed by the sight of the invaders. The Rakayar were a species known for their cruelty and their overwhelming might. Where other alien civilizations had come in peace, the Rakayar came with a single purpose: conquest. They had left countless worlds in ruin, their advanced technology rendering their enemies powerless. The Galactic Council, once so proud of their ability to maintain order, now found themselves completely incapable of responding to the threat. It was as though a dark cloud had descended upon the galaxy, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. The Council's strict non-interference policy, meant to keep peace between worlds, now stood as a cruel joke. No one had expected a force so brutal, so merciless. As the Rakar flagship, a colossal ship that seemed to swallow the light around it, positioned itself above Earth's orbit, the world below erupted in chaos. Governments scrambled to respond, but their efforts were futile. The first salvo of weapons, sharp and deadly, struck cities across the planet, leaving wide swaths of destruction in their wake. For the first time, humanity experienced what it was like to be at the mercy of an enemy far stronger and more ruthless. There was no warning, no negotiation, just an unstoppable wave of destruction. The people of Earth watched in horror as the skies above them darkened, as ships the size of mountains hovered over their cities, firing deadly beams that turned entire skyscrapers to ash in an instant. The sound of sirens filled the air, but there was no escape. Panic swept through every corner of the globe as leaders made frantic calls, their voices desperate, but ultimately powerless. No matter what they said, no matter how much they begged, the Galactic Council did nothing. The words of reassurance from the Council came too late, empty promises from an organization paralyzed by the terror of the Rakar. In secret, deep within the hidden chambers of Earth's highest military command, a small group of leaders gathered. They were the last line of defense, the ones who had to face the harsh reality of the situation. The Rakayar had come, and there was no turning back. The panic that gripped the world now turned to something else, something harder, more determined. The military knew the odds were stacked against them, that no conventional defense could match the overwhelming power of the invaders. But humanity had something the Rakar had never encountered. It was a strange and often underestimated trait, one that had carried humankind through centuries of wars, hardships, and challenges. It was the stubborn refusal to give up, to be cowed, to back down when facing impossible odds. The human spirit had survived plagues, civil wars, and natural disasters, and it had always found a way to push forward, to rebuild, to fight back. The Rakar might have the technology, but they didn't understand humanity's drive. The meeting, held in the shadowy depths of a military bunker, was filled with hushed voices and urgent whispers. The generals and commanders of Earth's most powerful forces understood one thing: they couldn't rely on the Galactic Council. There would be no help from the stars. Earth had to stand on its own. The plan was formed not out of military superiority, but out of sheer necessity. If they were to survive, humanity would need to outthink their enemies, to take advantage of the one thing that could work in their favor: Earth itself. The planet was rich with resources, and humanity had long since learned to innovate. The plan was daring, dangerous, and entirely unconventional. Rather than face the Rakayar head-on in a traditional battle, they would use the planet's environment, its hidden potential, and its unexpected advantage: its people. Human ingenuity was the key. From the front lines to the laboratories, everyone would need to contribute. Earth's most brilliant minds were brought together in a race against time. They didn't have the luxury of waiting for outside help or relying on conventional tactics. They needed to create weapons, strategies, and tools that the Rakayar had never imagined. The first step was simple: survive. Earth's leaders and scientists knew that they had to hold the line, even if it meant retreating into the shadows. The cities may have been burning, but there were pockets of resistance, small groups of soldiers and civilians working in secret to keep the invaders off balance. The Rakayar were powerful, yes, but they underestimated the humans' ability to adapt, to think quickly, and to exploit weaknesses. As the Rakayar began their destructive march across the planet, they had no idea that they were being watched. In the shadows, humans were learning, studying the invaders' movements, analyzing their technology. The plan was to find a way to turn the tide, not through brute force, but through innovation. Humans might not have the same technological prowess as the Rakayar, but they had something the aliens didn't: the ability to improvise. And it was this ability that would become their greatest weapon. As the days passed, humanity began to adapt. New strategies emerged, small victories were won, and the belief that they could fight back began to take root. The invaders may have come to conquer, but they had no idea that they had awoken a force that would make them regret ever setting foot in the solar system. The Rakayar, arrogant and ruthless, would soon learn that Earth was not just a fragile world on the edge of the galaxy. It was a world that had the will and the strength to stand tall and fight. And they would soon understand that humanity had a weapon far more dangerous than any technology: the unbreakable will to survive. As the Rakayar invasion raged across Earth, the skies darkened with the massive warships that blotted out the sun. The aliens descended with ruthless precision, wiping out entire cities in mere hours, their advanced weapons decimating any human resistance that dared to stand in their way. Buildings crumbled to dust, and the streets, once bustling with life, were now filled with the echoes of explosions and the cries of those trapped beneath the wreckage. Humanity, once proud and confident, found itself at the mercy of an unstoppable enemy. Yet, beneath the surface of this devastation, something was stirring. What the Rakayar failed to see, what they completely underestimated, was the invisible resistance that had already begun to rise. As the alien war machines rolled through Earth, small pockets of humanity fought back, hidden in the shadows. These weren't the great armies or grand forces that the invaders had expected. These were the ordinary people: soldiers, scientists, civilians who had chosen to fight with whatever they had. The Rakayar, blinded by their superiority and the scale of their initial victories, never expected Earth to be anything more than an easy conquest. But humans, with their resourcefulness and sheer will, had already started using guerrilla tactics that turned the invaders' own technology against them. Small groups of fighters, working in secret, launched swift, unpredictable attacks on Rakayar supply lines, striking where the enemy least expected. Human ingenuity was at its finest. A group of engineers, working under the cover of darkness, had found a way to hijack the alien communication system. Within days, they had deciphered parts of the Rakayar's advanced tech, turning it into weapons that could cripple their supply chains. As these small victories began to pile up, they sent a message to the world: humanity was far from defeated. Each attack, no matter how small, became a symbol of defiance. But the Rakayar, in their arrogance, underestimated the strength of their enemy. Their warlords, accustomed to the swift collapse of any civilization they attacked, were baffled. Earth's forces were different. Rather than crumbling under the pressure, humans fought with a tenacity that no one had expected. The Galactic Council, ever distant and slow to act, found themselves watching in disbelief as the human resistance began to take shape. They had assumed Earth would fall in a matter of days, just as so many others had before. Now, the Council was left with no answers, no clear plan of action. They had expected the humans to run and hide, to beg for mercy, but that wasn't happening. Frustrated by their inability to crush the resistance, the Rakayar decided to escalate. Their elite forces, genetically engineered super soldiers, were dispatched to Earth. These warriors were bred for battle, designed to be faster, stronger, and more lethal than any other being in the galaxy. The Rakayar were confident that these super soldiers would wipe out any human resistance that still existed, putting an end to the uprising once and for all. They had crushed entire civilizations in days, and now they believed humanity would be no different. But the Rakayar made one crucial mistake. They didn't realize that the humans they were fighting were unlike any other species they had ever encountered. As their elite forces descended into the war zones, they were met not with fear, but with defiance. Humans, despite their seemingly inferior strength, were fighting back in ways the Rakayar could not comprehend. They quickly discovered that humans had an uncanny ability to adapt, to innovate on the fly, and to use the very environment against them. The super soldiers found themselves in situations they had never trained for, trapped in ambushes set by human fighters who knew the terrain better than anyone. One by one, the Rakar's super soldiers fell, not in a grand, heroic battle, but in the relentless, frustrating strikes of humans who had nothing but their determination and their wits. Guerrilla warfare, once thought to be a primitive tactic, became their greatest weapon. The human fighters knew their cities, their land, and their people. They knew how to use every resource available to them, turning the smallest advantage into a significant victory. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council remained in turmoil, unable to process what was happening. They had long watched civilizations fall to the might of the Rakar, and now they were witnessing something they had never expected: a planet, seemingly powerless, fighting back and winning. The idea that Earth could hold its ground against the Rakar was something that could not be easily understood. How could a species with such limited technology stand against one that had crushed the strongest of civilizations in seconds? But it wasn't about technology or raw strength, it was about the spirit of humanity. The invaders had miscalculated one crucial thing. Humans didn't fight for victory alone. They fought for each other. The heart of Earth's resistance wasn't in their weapons or their tactics, but in their unyielding will to survive. When one fighter fell, another took their place. When a city was lost, it only fueled the fire for the next one to stand. And most importantly, the humans had something the Rakayar could never understand: hope. As the fighting escalated, the human resistance began to organize more effectively. Scientists who had once worked in secret now shared their findings with military leaders. Engineers created weapons that could disrupt the Rakayar's communications and cripple their technology. The resistance movement spread across the planet like wildfire as more and more people took up arms. And as they fought, their ranks grew. The Rakayar, who had once seen themselves as the galaxy's unstoppable force, now faced a planet that was no longer an easy target. For the first time in the invasion, the Rakayar found themselves on the defensive. Their super soldiers, once thought to be invincible, were no match for the ingenuity and determination of humanity. Earth's resistance was small, but it was growing stronger with every victory and every setback the Rakayar faced. The aliens could not understand why their superior forces were failing against a species they had deemed primitive. They soon realized the truth: humanity wasn't just fighting for survival, they were fighting for something far greater. They were fighting for their home, their future, and their place in the stars. And so, the battle for Earth continued, with each victory fueling the fire of resistance. The Rakayar would soon learn that the true strength of humanity was not in their technology, but in their relentless will to survive and fight back, no matter the odds. The invisible resistance, once thought to be nothing more than a small nuisance, was now a force to be reckoned with, and the Rakayar had no idea just how dangerous that could be. As the Rakar's grip on Earth tightened, the once thriving cities now lay in ruins, the streets filled with the remnants of the great battle. But the human spirit, far from broken, began to burn brighter. While the invaders continued to crush any resistance in their path, they were unaware that humanity had something far more dangerous than they had anticipated. Hidden deep within Earth's top-secret research facilities, humanity's scientists had been working on something extraordinary. A weapon designed not just for survival, but for retaliation. An energy-based defense system, initially intended for deep space travel, was now ready for use. It wasn't just a weapon, it was a breakthrough that could change the course of the war. The weapon, a powerful energy beam capable of disabling even the most advanced alien technologies, was a result of years of secret research that no one, not even the Rakar, had expected. As the world's military leaders came together under a unified command, the first of these weapons was deployed in a series of covert missions. With the weapon in hand, humanity's forces launched surprise raids against the Rakar warships, attacking them from unexpected angles, striking swiftly and then disappearing into the shadows. The first few hits were small, isolated strikes on supply ships and patrol vessels, but each success chipped away at the once impenetrable confidence of the invaders. The Rakayar, used to an easy victory, began to grow frustrated as their warships were crippled by this strange new weapon. With each successful strike, the humans gained more confidence, and soon the frequency of attacks increased. The balance of power began to shift. Where once the humans had been fleeing or hiding, now they were fighting back with a ferocity that no one had expected. The invaders, now under pressure, scrambled to fortify their positions, but the humans were relentless, using their new weapon in combination with the guerrilla tactics that had already proven so effective. The Rakayar's warships, once seen as invincible, began to falter under the barrage of energy attacks. Each blow left them reeling, and the Rakayar realized they had underestimated Earth's ability to innovate and adapt. For the first time, the Rakayar were on the defensive. In desperation, the Rakayar's supreme commander, known for his ruthless tactics and cold calculations, ordered a planetary bombardment. The plan was simple and terrifying: wipe out humanity in one devastating blow. They would target Earth's major cities, its military strongholds, and its most populated regions, leaving no place untouched. It was a last-ditch effort to crush the resistance once and for all. High above the planet, the Rakayar's warships positioned themselves, their weapons primed for the most destructive bombardment the galaxy had ever seen. The first wave of missiles was launched, and Earth's sky darkened with the oncoming destruction. Cities were obliterated in an instant, fires consumed entire landscapes, and millions of lives were threatened. But what the Rakayar didn't expect was the strength of the alliances Earth had quietly forged. As the bombardment began, secret messages were sent out, not just to Earth's surviving forces, but to other alien species who had once been oppressed by the Rakayar's brutal regime. The Rakayar's history of domination had not been forgotten, and now, at a time when the invasion seemed to be at its peak, former slaves and rebels of the Rakayar Empire came together to aid humanity in their darkest hour. These once oppressed alien species brought with them ancient knowledge, technology thought to be lost to the galaxy. Technologies that had been buried deep in forgotten ruins, relics from civilizations that had fought the Rakayar and lost. Yet these technologies, once dismissed as old myths, were now Earth's secret weapon. With their help, humanity quickly adapted, using their newfound allies' technology to fight back against the Rakayar's bombardment. Shielding systems, long-range missiles, and energy barriers, all forgotten or hidden by the galactic powers, were now at humanity's disposal. It wasn't just the weaponry that changed the tide, it was the very essence of unity. The Rakayar had relied on their isolation and superiority, but humanity, joined by those who had suffered under the same enemy, proved that there was more strength in unity than in oppression. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council, which had once stood on the sidelines, now found itself in a state of panic. The Rakayar had once seemed unstoppable, and the Council had done nothing but watch. But the balance had shifted. Earth, which they had once seen as a helpless world, had suddenly become a force to be reckoned with. The galactic leaders, long hesitant to intervene, were now faced with the reality that Earth could ignite a rebellion against the Rakayar, one that could spread across the stars. It was no longer a matter of whether humanity could survive the invasion, it was a question of how much damage they could inflict on the Rakayar before the galaxy was forced to take action. The once paralyzed Council, now scrambling to maintain its credibility, realized that Earth could be the key to overthrowing the Rakayar's reign of terror. In the coming days, the Galactic Council began to take notice. Military representatives from various star systems, once unwilling to risk their resources, now saw an opportunity. They could either continue watching as the Rakayar crushed Earth, or they could rally behind the humans and stand a chance against the invaders. The message was clear: Earth, a planet once seen as insignificant, had become the spark that could light the fire of rebellion across the galaxy. No longer isolated, humanity found itself not just fighting for survival, but leading a movement that could reshape the future of the galaxy. The Rakayar had underestimated Earth, and now they were facing a resistance that was growing in strength, in allies, and in resolve. The planetary bombardment had failed to break humanity's spirit. Instead, it had galvanized the human race and their allies. Earth, now united with former enemies of the Rock-IR, had the strength and technology to strike back and strike back hard. The balance of power had shifted, and the Rock-IR, once thought to be unbeatable, now found themselves in a fight they had never imagined. With each passing day, the alliance between Earth and the oppressed alien species grew stronger, and the Galactic Council, once paralyzed, now had no choice but to support them. Earth, in its darkest hour, had transformed from a vulnerable target to the center of a rebellion that could change the galaxy forever. The battle was far from over, but humanity had proven one undeniable truth. They were no longer just survivors. They were a force that could bring down the greatest empire the galaxy had ever seen. The sky above Earth was a chaotic canvas, painted with fire and destruction. The Rock-IR, having finally mobilized their full force, unleashed a devastating assault on humanity's home planet. Their warships, colossal and indomitable, blotted out the stars as they arrived in swarms, their guns primed to annihilate Earth's defenses. The entire fleet of Earth's allies, now a unified coalition of rebel species, was stationed in orbit, prepared for the fight of their lives. The once peaceful skies over Earth had become the stage for what would go down in history as the largest space battle the galaxy had ever witnessed, the Battle of Worlds. Explosions filled the air, ripping through the fabric of space as rockets and energy beams clashed. Ships from every corner of the galaxy, including Earth's makeshift fleet, fought valiantly to hold their ground against the relentless tide of Rock-IR warships. The soundless chaos of space was broken only by the terrible, thunderous blasts that rocked the fleets. Earth's forces, though outnumbered, had an edge: unity. A diverse coalition of species had come together in the face of the Rock-IR's tyranny, and their combined might was proving to be a challenge the invaders had not anticipated. Earth's military forces, working side by side with their alien allies, unleashed everything they had. Yet, despite their best efforts, the Rock-IR's superiority in both firepower and numbers became apparent. The battlefield was a massacre, both sides taking heavy casualties, but the Rock-IR showed no signs of slowing down. Amid the swirling madness of the battle, one voice cut through the chaos: Captain Alicia Rhodes, a brilliant human strategist and leader who had earned her place as the heart of the resistance. Under her command, Earth's forces had pulled off incredible feats of guerrilla warfare, turning the tide in many previous battles. She had proven time and again that human ingenuity could challenge even the most superior alien technology. But now, as the battle raged on, the situation had become dire. The Rock-IR were too powerful, and their fleet was closing in fast. The only hope lay in striking at the very core of the enemy's operations. Captain Rhodes had a plan, a daring, dangerous plan, one that could shift the entire battle in humanity's favor. If Earth's forces were to survive, the Rock-IR flagship, the symbol of their power, needed to be destroyed, and its leadership must be neutralized. With little time to waste, Rhodes devised a bold strategy. A team of elite soldiers would infiltrate the Rock-IR flagship itself and take out the heart of their command structure. It was a desperate mission. The flagship, an immense vessel with impenetrable defenses, was the center of the Rock-IR's fleet. It controlled everything: communications, weapon systems, and troop deployment. If the flagship fell, the rest of the Rock-IR forces would be left without guidance, possibly triggering a collapse of their assault. But getting on board the flagship was an impossible task. The ship was surrounded by layers of Rock-IR defenses, and any attempt to board it would almost certainly result in death. But for Rhodes and her team, failure was not an option. The team she assembled was diverse: soldiers, engineers, and officers from all over Earth and its allied species. Each member of the team had a unique skill set, and together they represented the very best humanity had to offer. They were the last line of defense, the final hope for the galaxy. As the team prepared to board their stealth ships, Captain Rhodes gathered them together for one final briefing. Her voice, steady and confident, resonated in the air as she reminded them of the stakes. "We're not just fighting for Earth," she said, her eyes locking with each soldier in turn. "We're fighting for every world the Rock-IR have enslaved, every species they've oppressed. We have one shot at this, and we can't afford to fail. The stealth ships, small and agile, darted through the chaos of the space battle, evading detection as they made their way toward the Rakayar flagship. The team knew they were running out of time. Every moment brought them closer to being spotted and destroyed. But the heart of their mission was clear: infiltrate, strike at the Rakayar leadership, and escape. As they neared the flagship, tension ran high. The Rakayar's defensive systems were formidable, but Earth's engineers had found a way to disable part of the ship's outer shields. It wasn't much, but it was enough to allow them to slip through the gaps unnoticed. Once aboard the flagship, the team split into smaller groups, each with a specific target. Rhodes led the charge toward the command center, her tactical mind already planning their every move. The halls of the Rakayar ship were dark, and the air was thick with the sounds of alien machinery. Their footsteps echoed eerily as they moved, keeping to the shadows, knowing that the slightest mistake could mean the end. The deeper they went, the more dangerous the mission became. The Rakayar soldiers were not to be underestimated, and they quickly realized that this was not going to be a simple infiltration. The ship's corridors were guarded by elite Rakayar soldiers, genetically engineered for combat. These super soldiers were faster, stronger, and more brutal than anything the humans had faced. Yet, despite their terrifying abilities, they were not prepared for the ferocity and cunning of Rhodes and her team. As the team made their way toward the command center, they encountered resistance. A fierce battle broke out in the ship's inner hallways. The humans fought back with every ounce of strength, using every tool at their disposal. Explosives, advanced weaponry, and hand-to-hand combat were all deployed in the cramped, claustrophobic space. The Rakayar soldiers fought viciously, but Rhodes and her team pushed forward, their mission unwavering. At last, Rhodes and her closest companions reached the command center. Inside, the Rakayar's supreme commander, an imposing, ruthless figure, awaited them. The room was vast and cold, filled with the hum of alien technology. His eyes, filled with centuries of cruel victories, locked onto Rhodes as she entered, a cold smile playing at the corners of his lips. He had never been defeated, and he wasn't about to start now. "You think you can stop me?" he sneered. "You are nothing but insects to me." But Rhodes, with her unyielding spirit, met his gaze and said, "We've already beaten you once, and we'll do it again. This is the end of your reign." What followed was a battle of wits and will. The Supreme Commander was no mere soldier, he was a strategist, a master of combat. But Rhodes, with her human ingenuity and ability to think outside the box, was just as deadly. The standoff between them was intense, each knowing the fate of the galaxy rested on the outcome. With the rest of the team fighting off reinforcements, Rhodes and the commander clashed in the heart of the Rakayar flagship. The struggle would determine not just the outcome of the battle, but the future of countless worlds. As the battle raged, one thing became clear: this was not just a fight for Earth's survival. It was a battle for the soul of the galaxy itself. And in that moment, the fate of all living beings hung in the balance. The dust had barely settled in the aftermath of the fierce battle, but the change in the galaxy was undeniable. Captain Alicia Rhodes and her team had achieved the impossible against all odds. They had struck at the heart of the Rakayar war machine. The Rakayar commander, the ruthless leader who had never known defeat, now lay defeated at the hands of humans, and their flagship, the symbol of their dominance, was in ruins. With the central core of the Rakayar flagship disabled, the invaders began to fall apart. Without leadership, their coordination crumbled, and their forces retreated in disarray. The once feared Rakayar Empire, which had seemed invincible, was now nothing more than a fractured and broken shadow of its former self. But even as Earth celebrated its improbable victory, there was no time for rest. The war was not over. The Rakayar's retreat was just the beginning of a new chapter, one that would see the galaxy forever changed. Earth, now recognized as the spark that had ignited a galaxy-wide rebellion, found itself standing at the threshold of a new era. But with victory came immense loss. The cost of the war had been staggering. Entire cities had been reduced to ash. Countless lives had been lost, and the scars of battle would remain for generations. Yet, the survivors, human and alien alike, had shown a resilience and determination that had never been seen before. The people of Earth had been tested to their limits, but they had proven something more significant than mere survival. They had proven their strength, their ingenuity, and their ability to rise when everything seemed lost. And that was something the galaxy would never forget. The Galactic Council, which had long turned a blind eye to Earth's struggles, now found itself facing an undeniable truth: humanity was no longer a fragile, isolated world. Earth had stood against the might of the Rak'ar and had emerged victorious, and that victory sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The other species, who had watched from the sidelines, now saw humanity in a new light. What was once a primitive planet had transformed into a beacon of hope, resistance, and resilience. And the Council could no longer ignore the rising power of Earth. For the first time in history, the Galactic Council extended an offer to Earth, a seat at the table. No longer would Earth be an afterthought. Humanity had earned its place in the Galactic Order, and the Council was forced to reckon with the fact that Earth was no longer a backwater planet, but a force to be reckoned with. As the leaders of the galaxy came to terms with the new reality, Captain Rhodes stood before the people of Earth. She had been the face of the resistance, the symbol of humanity's indomitable spirit. And now, as the war came to a close, it was her voice that would speak to the millions who had fought and died for this victory. Her speech, broadcast to every corner of Earth and beyond, was filled with both hope and solemnity. She spoke of the tremendous sacrifice that had been made, but also of the promise that humanity would not just survive, it would thrive. "The battle for our survival may be over," she said, her voice steady and full of conviction, "but this is just the beginning. We have proven to the galaxy that humanity will not be subjugated, that we will not bow to tyranny. We will rise and we will lead. The Rak'ar's empire may be shattered, but in its place, we will build something new. Together, with our allies, we will forge a future of unity, strength, and hope." Her words resonated across the stars. Earth was no longer just a planet under siege. It was now a symbol of resilience and leadership. The galaxy watched as humanity took its first steps into this new role, not as a victim of invasion, but as the new beacon of hope in a galaxy that had long been dominated by fear and war. And as the Galactic Council debated the future of the galaxy, one thing became certain: Earth would no longer stand on the sidelines. Humanity would be a leader in shaping the galaxy's future. But even as Earth's victory was celebrated, Captain Rhodes knew that the challenges ahead would be far from easy. The Rak'ar may have been defeated, but there were other threats in the galaxy, other forces that would seek to fill the power vacuum left in the wake of the Rak'ar's destruction. Earth's place in the Galactic Order had been earned, but it would require vigilance, diplomacy, and strength to maintain that position. The war had shown humanity's capability to fight, but the future would require more than just military might. It would require wisdom, cooperation, and the ability to unite species of every kind. And as the people of Earth looked to the stars, they knew that they were no longer just fighting for survival. They were fighting for a future. In the days that followed, Earth's leaders worked closely with the Galactic Council to chart a new course for the galaxy, one that was built on mutual respect, unity, and the lessons learned from the Rak'ar invasion. The war had united Earth with its allies, and it was clear that humanity's role in the galaxy would be one of leadership and compassion. No longer would Earth be isolated or overlooked. Humanity had proven its worth, and now, with their allies, they would take the lead in forging a new galactic order, one where the strength of unity would replace the oppression of domination. And so, as the galaxy slowly healed from the scars of war, Earth stood tall. The blue planet that had once been so fragile had now become a center of power and hope in the galaxy. The people of Earth, led by Captain Rhodes and a new generation of leaders, would ensure that the mistakes of the past would not be repeated. They would stand watch, not just as survivors, but as the new protectors of the galaxy, a force for peace, unity, and strength. The rebirth of the Galactic Order had begun, and Earth was at its helm, guiding the galaxy toward a brighter future.